The third pillar of social responsibility is health and welfare. The next wave of medical innovations are highly dependent on our semiconductor advancements and your embedded design innovations. Those of you joining us from the medical field are going to great lengths to add intelligence and to enable cost-effective home diagnostics, access to treatment, and cures for epidemics. As a member of the Continue Alliance, we're actively working in tandem with our industry peers to create standards for the medical field. Of course, we're also designing devices that specifically take into consideration the needs of this segment, including 15+ years of supply support. And of course, taking care of our environment has become a fundamental part of our and your design considerations. If you've been following the smart grid and environmental ecosystem discussions, there are many figures of merit worth considering. There are two that I'd like to draw your attention to. The U.S. Energy Information Administration claims that operation of residential and commercial buildings account for 40% of our carbon dioxide emissions. And according to the Department of Energy's Smart Grid book, if together we can make if we can make the grid efficient by just 5%, it's the equivalent of removing almost the emissions generated by 52 million vehicles. As active members of the Home Plug and Zigbee alliances, Renesas is contributing its share to enable the smarter grid. Safety, security, health, and the environment have become the cornerstones of corporate responsibility, which by extension are your challenges to innovation. And ironically, profit will now come from having this sense of responsibility. We're now at the top layer, the crust. As I mentioned before, technology, like our planet, has no borders. Hence, borderless innovation. There are 4 pillars to this new phase of innovation. Let me start with asset virtualization. It's remarkable that MIT, one of the world's most prestigious engineering schools, has put online its freshman courses through a program known as MIT OpenCourseWare. 72 million students have already benefited from this content. And most of these students have probably never set foot on the MIT campus or even thought of applying for a US student visa. With a $100 PC, these students from continents away now have access to the same level of education that has only been appreciated by few. The embedded technologies we're developing are not only establishing a borderless world, but are also removing social barriers. Regional centers of excellence are rapidly expanding from Silicon Valley, Tokyo, Munich, Bangalore, and Seoul, to include Sao Paulo, Shanghai, Moscow, Cape Town, and Saigon. They will quickly transition from hired resources in low-cost regions to competitors in our own home markets. The third pillar is interlocking standards. Many of you are employing platform approaches to minimize duplication and accelerate innovation. In some industries like automotive, the unification of standards is becoming the norm. And in other industries, you and individual companies are adopting the platform approach to normalize unique and regional standards for maximizing innovation. And finally, innovation no longer depends on support of global and premier brands. You can go from zero to hero in months versus years. These 4 pillars represent the macrocosm of borderless innovation. Let me now review with you an example at the microcosm level. It used to be that you had very few choices for delivery of voice, video, and internet services into your home, and you could only access them physically inside the home. These companies were the incumbents who controlled the pipe. Then came the challengers like Skype and YouTube and provided voice, video, and others who added control functions for remote security and other services at much lower costs. The disruptive innovation is happening today with the mobile apps, which are virtually going around the pipe for a fraction of the cost. Now let me apply the 4 pillars of borderless innovation to this microcosm example. Asset virtualization. Billions of homes are now sharing services and content that have become virtualized in the cloud. Regional centers of excellence. Mobile apps are being developed by engineers probably sitting in Saigon and Sao Paulo. Interlocking standards. Mobile apps enablers have established platforms whereby global suppliers can provide solutions that are by design interoperable. And finally, when we apply the micro-brand concept, who would have thought of Skype and YouTube competing with AT&T and NBC? The complexity of what we do today is no longer developing computing devices. We're connecting everything in multiple dimensions, which brings with it responsibility with respect to our society, safety, and our environment. The collective we are providing the catalyst to change our society from one that was separated by borders, distance, and languages to one that is no longer separated. We're branding this new era as the era of borderless innovation. Solutions for innovation is not only the theme of this DevCon, but it's also our company's motto. Let me now put all of this in perspective. We work in the most important industry in the world. Our industry and associated economy is the successor to the fossil fuel economy. You are the ambassadors of the great companies you represent. And as engineers, you're sincere, pragmatic, and genuine. Together, we're responsible to innovate, not just for the good of our companies, but also for the good of society. We invite you to actively participate here at DevCon with our staff, our executives, and our partners so that we can address your innovation challenges. Thank you for listening.